Hi, how are you?
Oh, Jen, sorry about
Cool. Sorry, I almost forgot how to do it.
that.
It's been so long. It's been so long. Eleanor's on. Hello, guys. How's everybody? Good, good. All right. How are you, Tara?
I'm pretty good.
Yeah?
I
How's
got
things
held
in
up
your
for,
neck of the woods?
got held up for a little bit on a work call, but I made it here. And then, of course,
Tara, if you guys don't know, Tara's taking like a really early lunch today. Did you? Taking like a 10 a.m. lunch.
my breakfast break.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I want to do the morning because I feel like more people can come on, stuff like that. So,
Yeah,
all
that's
right.
right.
So, have a good conversation today. We're going to talk about what self-medicating through substances, food, and all that good stuff, a little bit inner child stuff.
Hmm.
So, where would you like to start? I mean, this is a big topic, I think, for a lot of
Yeah,
people. So,
lot of ground to cover.
yeah, so I mean, from your experience, this is something that you and I have both used, in
Mhm.
our past to self-medicate per se, to cover up emotions and things like that. Do you want to talk a little bit about your experience, first of all, and then we'll kind of go into more of a deeper discussion?
Sure. My issue has been with binge drinking. Like, I was never a problem drinker. Like, I was never dependent on alcohol. I was fortunate enough to never struggle with addiction. But it started when I was in college and I had a problem with social anxiety. So it would
Hmm.
help me so much to get that feeling of losing your inhibitions and feeling calmer when you have some drinks. And that just turned into me waking up more and more and not remembering what I had done the night before. And it's ultimately increasing my anxiety, right? Like, it goes from having social anxiety to
Hmm.
having a more disturbing anxiety over not having control over what you do and say, just having to walk around the following day like, oh, I don't know whether I offended someone. I don't know whether I put myself in danger. Just having all those memories wiped out, you just
Yeah.
feel a lack of control. And then I just went into a cycle where I would recover from that anxiety and then go to another social situation and feel overwhelmed and want to talk more and feel more confident, so then I would just get blackout drunk again, and it just kept going and going.
Hmm. Becomes a cycle. Yeah. So
Yeah,
when did this start for you? Like what age
it was when I
did
was
you say?
18.
18. Okay.
Yeah, it was when you and I were in school together, because that was when I
Of
was,
course.
yeah.
Of course.
You were
Bad
always a positive
influences.
influence on me, though, Jen.
Back then,
You
I
were
don't
really
know. Back then,
awesome.
I don't know. But yeah, I mean, this is something that I feel like a lot of, especially the young generation, goes through. And it is, it's societal. And unfortunately, it's like, okay, we use alcohol is accepted, right? I go to a bar. But for some people, it becomes this, like for you, it becomes a spiral where it actually increases your anxiety, right? Because, I mean, we all know the effects of alcohol. It's a depressant for one. So, um, you feel good drinking, and I did the same thing. I used to use binge drinking, and where because I was a shy person, so it would allow me to open up to people and kind of bring out more of a fun side of Jen, I guess you could say, rather
Hmm.
than being closed off from the world.
Hmm.
But yeah, the after effects are just, it makes you feel worse essentially, and then it becomes a spiral. But the thing is that you kind of train yourself to use this as a coping mechanism,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
Yep.
like for me, I use food as a coping mechanism. When I was about age 20, I developed a binge eating disorder
Hmm.
pattern, and it lasted many years. And it began because I was trying to fill some sort of void inside, or you're trying to cover up anxiety, or you're trying to cover up depression, or you're trying to cover up self-loathing, right?
Hmm.
Especially when you're younger, you're going through body image issues, you're going through self-acceptance issues, right? You're trying to fit in when
Hmm.
you're in college or when you're in school or around people. So, this becomes an issue for a lot of the younger generation. And unfortunately, if you don't get a grasp on it, it can kind of transfer into your adult life. and then
Hmm.
it becomes part of a larger issue, I think. What
Absolutely.
do you think about that?
I absolutely think that. I mean, well, for starters, when you would be in the act of binge eating, were you feeling more of a masking of those unpleasant emotions? Was it more that you could numb yourself by diving into the binge eating, or was it that you
Oh,
were
yeah.
getting high from the binge eating that you crashed out?
I think it was a mix of both, you know. Part of it is you're not mindful of what you're actually feeling inside, or
Hmm.
you just know you feel uncomfortable, and that's the coping mechanism, right? Everybody has
Hmm.
something. It could be food, it could be alcohol, it could be drugs, it could be sex, it could be gambling, shopping, whatever.
Yep.
Um, you reach for something outside of yourself to fill that void inside, to get rid of that uncomfortable feeling.
Hmm.
And that's what I did for many years. It was like I don't want to feel anxious. I mean, I would eat when I was anxious, when I was stressed, but I would also eat when I was happy. It was the go-to, right?
Hmm.
So for a lot of people, they drink when they're happy or they're sad.
Yeah.
So it really doesn't matter. It's just like that is the go-to thing that makes them feel better, no matter
Yeah.
what, or makes them continue feeling better. And it's a matter of retraining yourself. For many years, I tried to just fix the problem,
Hmm.
and I did that by, I did things. I tried like self-hypnosis. I tried um, all different things, and what helped a little bit actually was exercise. In
Hmm.
2007, I joined a roller derby team, as you know, and
Yeah.
um, and that helped immensely with some of the self-acceptance issues that I had going on,
Hmm.
because I now formed this really tight-knit group of friends, and I would
Hmm.
be busy. I would spend a lot of time with them. I was exercising, a few times a week
Hmm.
with them, and that helped immensely. But there was still something lingering inside because I was still looking outside of myself for answers, for something
Right.
to fulfill me. And
Yep.
while it felt good for a little while, you still have those times where there's still like something inside. So it wasn't until my 30s where I started, instead of looking outside to fix what's inside, I started looking inside to fix the outside, the other way
Yeah.
around. So that's
Yeah.
that's the difference.
Yeah. That's absolutely how I learned to function in a more helpful way, like a way that was more
Hmm.
helpful to me. Because it's like you're saying, you weren't being mindful of what you were feeling. So you were just going to a habit to deal with those feelings. I'm working on just being more mindful of what is happening and what I'm feeling. And it kind of removes the need to control those things.
Exactly. And I know we had the conversation in when we did the collab about anxiety,
Hmm.
how, you were so used to fighting the anxiety and trying to push it away, but
Yeah.
you started doing therapy and you started doing things where you actually ride the wave of anxiety, you let it course through your body, you become the observer and like the little scientist, pick it apart, what's going on, and look at it from a different lens, right? Different perspective on it. And you said that helped you immensely as well.
It did, yeah,
Yeah.
because and you can get all sorts of benefits from it, in my opinion. Like being the observer helps standing alone, but then I'm noticing there were things that are fun and pleasant about like being in a social situation. You know, I still get that urge if I'm even in a Zoom party. You know, I'm talking to people from the comfort of my own home, and
Yeah.
I'll still get that urge to binge drink because I want to be more lively around these people, or maybe something during the week's been stressing me out or depressing me, and I want to push that away. But not only am I not getting a healthy relationship with my emotions, but there could be some really good conversation happening in this party that I'm not fully engaging in because I'm too busy being drunk.
Yeah.
You know, like my friends are not, it's like I mentioned to my therapist fairly recently, my friends are not boring. Like they don't disappoint me when we're sober. It's like, oh, I
Hmm.
wish I could have more fun with this dud. I think
Dud.
I need a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
You know, I should just appreciate what we're talking about, the fact that I have these people to keep me company and all that, alcohol has nothing to do with that experience.
Right. Right. Yeah, so it's detaching from the alcohol, right? It's
Yeah.
because I think we attach to these things, and we form like a horrible relationship. Like alcohol is alcohol, whatever. Food is food, whatever. We need it to survive. But when it becomes this issue where we are attaching to it and forming this really negative relationship with it, where we're viewing it as this horrible, evil thing, right? Because in your head, because you know the after effects and what's going to happen, you're always probably in your head resisting, like, I really want to drink, I really want to drink, I shouldn't drink, I shouldn't drink, you know? It's
Mhm.
always like, I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't do that. Instead of it being just what it is, you know, it just
Right.
being like a drink, we like latch onto it. And that's just because it's formed a pattern in our brain at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
So what
totally
kind of things have you done to when you feel those urges or when you feel things popping up for you, feel like old patterns popping up? Have you what kind of things have you done to try to remedy it?
I I use techniques like, okay, I was fairly recently in a Zoom party and everybody was having a bunch of drinks, and I was tempted to have as many drinks as I was used to having, right? Which
Hmm.
was, I don't know, maybe over the course of 6 hours, I could have six drinks.
Your
Um,
marathon Zoom parties.
yeah.
Tara has marathon Zoom parties that last like 8 hours. I don't know how you do it.
Late into the night, lots of strong drinks. It's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
So I was tempted to do my normal thing, just keep inundating myself with the alcohol and get incoherent, sick the next day, the whole thing. But then I was like, okay, why don't I just observe what's going on around me right now? Like if I'm having an urge to drink, that means I'm telling myself a story in my head, right? It means you're not going to be having as much fun unless you get drunk. You're
Hmm.
not going to be as entertaining or as worthy a person unless you get super drunk. So I'm like, okay, let me focus on what this person on Zoom is talking about. They're talking about something really interesting. I can engage, I can make people laugh, can give my opinion, and I don't need alcohol to do any of this stuff. So let me just focus on exactly this. And then when I focus on that stuff, it's taking the power away from the story in my head that alcohol is going to make this better.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
improving it. And I have never gotten any hard evidence, like there's hard evidence and there's stories. The hard evidence is that it is not helpful to drink. The hard evidence is like me getting up in the morning and looking at my dining room table and seeing that I spilled red wine all over it and I didn't even remember doing it.
Yeah.
Or sending text messages to people like, oh, I'm so sad. I wish I were dead. Like, I don't wish I were dead. I'm blowing things out of proportion because I'm blind drunk.
Yeah.
Um, that is not helpful. Throwing up all over the place is not helpful.
Right.
But, when
Absolutely.
have I ever come away from a Zoom party or being out for dinner with friends and thought, oh my God, like I have such regret and sadness that I didn't get more drunk? That never happened.
Right. Right. You
So
probably felt better, if anything, right? It's yeah.
I absolutely did. So what
Hmm.
is my life experience telling me? And if I ever had a period of frustration, like if I was at the dinner, like, oh gosh, no, everyone's getting another round of wine. I wish I could join them. Why do I really want to join them? Is it because I want to feel more of a sense of belonging just from having wine? Nobody cares what I'm doing. They
Right.
care that I'm
Yeah.
engaged in the conversation. They care that I'm with them. It's a memory. It's not, oh wow, Tara's such a jerk. Like she offended me so much when she didn't get wasted last night.
Right,
What's that
right.
about?
Yeah, I mean that's what we tell ourselves in our head, right? I have the same
Yeah.
issue with I used to do that too with alcohol or food, and it's like yeah, I mean you form this story in your head and it's like, oh, what's this person going to think? Or I've always had like, the brain is such a weird thing because I've
Mhm.
always had this thing like somebody's going to take my food away from me or something if I don't fill up my plate or something like that, and I still have those issues where it's like portion control and things like that, just because I was trained kind of from a very young age, you know, my household, things like that. But yeah, somebody asked the question, what do you do about the shouldn't self-talk? Say it was, do we just accept our thought patterns? I think it's a matter of more so shifting the thought patterns. I mean, we don't want to resist what we're thinking and feeling, but if we
Mm-hmm.
can get to a point where we can shift ourselves into a better frame of mind, I mean, when it comes down to it, it's all about our perspective on it. So, like
Yeah.
you just said, Tara, if you're creating this story in your head about how people are going to demean you because you're not joining them for another cocktail or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
that's the story in your head. I mean, that is probably not accurate most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, really shifting from the inside out instead
Yes.
of looking the outside in. So for me, when I started getting into things like acupuncture and meditation, that
Mm-hmm.
helped shift me more so, because where exercise helped immensely, it
Mm-hmm.
was still like an outside thing. Yeah, it's changing chemistry, it's releasing endorphins, but it's still kind of reaching for a quick fix in a way, because
Mm-hmm.
that's going to wear off eventually. And where am I going to be? I'm going to be back to where I was feeling, having self-acceptance issues. So it's a lot about self-acceptance, about self-love, it's about self-worth, a lot of
Yep.
cases. It's about
Yep.
comfort, it's about safety. So when I started meditating, I started
Mm-hmm.
using acupuncture. It helped me connect to myself more, because I wasn't connecting to myself.
Mm-hmm.
I was attaching to things outside of me. So I don't know what your experience has been with that, as far as looking within or delving deep inside yourself and getting to know yourself, who you are authentically, why you are feeling the way you do,
Mm-hmm.
what from your past is causing you to feel this way,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to nourish that. Essentially, it's nourishing ourselves.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I have a little inner child situation going on, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what gave me the platform to go wild in college. It's part of it because I grew up in a pretty strict household, you know, in terms of what I could do socially, having friends over, very strict rules. So I didn't get a lot of time with people my age growing up, unless it was my sisters, because of course we're living in the same house.
Yeah.
Also, it was hard for me to get good friendships with people when I was growing up, because I was just, I don't know, weird kid. A lot of people were put off. They just, you know, no offense to me, they just weren't really interested in getting genuine friendships with me until I was a young teenager. That's when I started finding people who were actually clicking with me. So when I went through all those years, it's easy to get a story that's really firmly planted in you. There's something missing. You know, there's something about you. People just don't like it. Like you need to add something here. And I guess it continued on through, even though I had a better social life when I was a teenager. I always had that hanging in my head, like, oh, you know, maybe people are friends with you because they're getting something from you, you know, maybe
Hmm.
everybody's just taking advantage of you. No one ever gave me any evidence of that. It's just the stories you tell yourself because you have low self-esteem. And then when I got to college, I thought, oh, here's the missing piece. I can just be drunk and I feel so different, and I'm getting this kind of
Yeah.
attention that I never got before. I feel
Hmm.
so grown up and mature, and then all the negatives that came, like it didn't, that didn't bring me happiness. Like the friendships, like the friendship I have with you, like, can we say, oh yeah, Jen and I became friends in college and we just stayed friends because we were both lushes? That didn't happen. You know, we didn't need alcohol. Like,
Right.
if you take that out of the equation, if our personalities don't mesh, there's nothing there. That doesn't
Right.
have anything to do with either one of us
Yeah.
binge eating or binge drinking.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, when you're drunk, you like everybody almost.
yeah,
Or you could, I
exactly.
mean, you know, it alters your perception. So
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, it's very true to kind of weeding out who you're really resonating with, right?
Mhm.
Versus who you're not. who doesn't connect with you? I mean, yeah, there's people who they have friends, just their circle of friends. They only hang out when they're drunk. You know, you and
Right,
I have both witnessed that. And is that really a friend? I don't
right.
know. It's up to discretion. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you're having deep conversations at the bar, but
Do you
when you're
remember them the
sober,
next?
where does it go? Right. Do you remember
Right.
them for one? Yeah. So, um, and yeah, absolutely. Bringing out that inner child. So, what have been some ways that you have tapped into your inner child again? Have you found ways to do that?
If I'm doing it, I'm trying to focus on the joyous stuff.
Yeah.
So if there's anything that happened in my childhood that made me struggle with self-esteem, for example, I want to take all of those issues and I want to look at them as objects that should not have the control over me that they do. So that's when I can engage the observer, right? And everything's just a story. It's just a thought. It's meaningless. It has no real impact on my life unless I allow it to. They're not
Hmm.
helpful. Like I'm, work on holding them at a distance and making them not powerful. If it's something that's more nostalgic or joyous, like if I want to be fully engaged in something, it could be reading a book that I loved when I was a kid or playing a video game I loved when I was a kid,
Hmm.
focusing on those kind of memories, like me not having a care in the world, being fortunate enough to have a memory of when I didn't care about anything of any real meaning. What did I care about when I was a kid? Like getting picked on, or am I gonna get in trouble and not get enough gifts from Santa this year? Or, stuff like that.
Hmm.
So if I go back to that time, then it feels therapeutic. But if I'm focusing on the stories I've told myself since I was like 7, 8 years old, it's just not helpful to me in any way. And they're not monsters.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
no real harm that can come to my life, nothing that can get taken away from me because of words that I generate in my head.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So what
Absolutely.
about you? Like you mentioned that you grew up with
Oh, you locked up. Oh, there
got a
she is.
call. Anxiety place.
Deny.
Hello?
Can you
Oh.
hear me?
Yeah.
You got your sound? You can hear me?
Yeah. Sorry
Okay,
about that. I
cool.
had to decline a call.
Yeah.
You have the anxiety placed around food, like somebody was going to take your food away from you.
Hmm.
Did that come from really your relationship with your parents? Like, did they have an emphasis on eating everything on your plate, or they're going to throw it out, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us grow up with that mentality. But I don't know, like yeah, I mean, part of it was definitely family growing up. I mean, we always took like big portions and second helpings, and it was kind of ingrained in me. But I really didn't develop binge eating until college. Like, my freshman year in college, I went all out, out drinking 4 or 5 nights a week and partying. And then the next year, I decided to get all healthy.
Mhm.
And that's when I totally flipped the switch. And I basically was starving myself. I was eating like 600 calories a day on stuff that wasn't even, on just like cereal or lettuce, nothing that was really nutritious for me.
Mhm.
And that basically, my body went crazy, because I was going to the gym 5 days a week on top of it, doing like hour-long spin classes and then just eating like a little piece of a bar or something. So that was definitely part of it, my body just rejecting what I was doing to it and
Mhm.
saying, okay, you want food, right? You need to nourish me. So I
Yeah.
would go home on the weekends and then I would just binge and eat whatever I could find,
Mhm.
and this became a cycle. That was the start of it. And suddenly food became my coping mechanism. And this binge eating became my coping mechanism for any kind of emotional void that I was feeling. So I think when I was 20, because I started this cycle of getting healthier,
Mhm.
I didn't fit into still like my roommates and my friends in school who were still going out partying and drinking. So
Mhm.
essentially, I became a loner, an
Mhm.
outcast.
Right.
And what did I do? I nourished myself with food to
Mhm.
fill that void. And that lasted for many years. It lasted for over 10 years. And, it wasn't until I really did things like meditation and, like I said, acupuncture. And I tried self-hypnosis for a little while, but I think I was coming at it. I was in my 20s. I was coming at it from a place of it being a quick fix
Mhm.
more than me actually getting to know what's going on inside. What am I doing? What am I feeling? What am I thinking?
Right.
Right? So you can use a modality, but
Mhm.
if you're not using it in the correct way, I guess you could say, or
Mhm.
you don't really want to shift yourself or change from the inside out, then
Mhm.
it's not going to work. It's like any kind of diet you do or anything like that. It's not going to work if you don't truly want that for yourself.
Totally.
If you
Totally.
don't truly want to change those subconscious beliefs inside. So, it's also about heart-mind coordination a
Mhm.
lot, I feel. And that is what has helped me because a lot of people who are unhappy, a lot of people who search for things outside of themselves,
Mhm.
whether it's food, whether it's alcohol, drugs, whatever, it's this mismatch. There's something in their life or somewhere in their life they might feel stuck or they feel like their spirit wants more, but their ego is telling them to do otherwise.
Mhm.
So it's this disconnection between the two. When you start matching the two up, that's
Mhm.
where you start healing yourself from the inside out because now you're nourishing your spirit. You're not just
Mhm.
nourishing your ego, right? We like to nourish
Right.
our ego, where
Mhm.
that's just what we do, But
Yeah.
once we truly get to know ourselves and the authentic side of ourselves, then that is powerful for change and transformation.
Yep. I completely agree.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep,
there's
that's
a
right,
lot.
Roy.
Oh, yeah. Does have a comment there?
Yep, going through the motions like meditation, but inside never truly. Yep, exactly. And I've done
Mhm.
meditation where I'm just not in it. So I had to stop doing it for a while because I was just doing it just to do it, to fit it in, but I
Mhm.
wasn't truly getting the benefit of something like meditation. So, I always say less is more, even if you do 5 minutes just sitting with yourself,
Mhm.
really tap into that 5 minutes and really, 5 minutes is better than 3 hours of just going through the motions of something and getting no benefit out of it. That's what I
Mhm.
think.
Yeah. Yep. I totally get it. I mean, I feel like there's a lot, totally a lot you could educate me on in terms of the ego and the spirit. Like I know you're the expert on that, but I think
I don't know
when I
about that.
think about like the layman's interpretation that I have is I look at you if you're just nourishing the ego, that involves a lot of what you were describing, right? It's a lot of masking and patch treatments. And if you're not
Focusing
willing
on
to
status,
stop,
things like that. Yeah.
yeah, right.
Hmm.
It's like if there's somebody screaming at you in the background and you're like, okay, I'm not going to address why they're screaming. I'm not going to get over my intimidation. I'm just going to look at this pen. And then you're looking at the pen and it's not helping you at all. Like you're just distracting yourself from this screaming person, but you're not solving the issue of the screaming person.
Hmm.
And if you continue on like that, are you really enjoying your life? You're not. If you're just running around trying to ignore and fix and distract yourself, then what meaning are you really taking out of your life?
Yeah. I think that's a huge thing you brought up. Distracting ourselves, running away is another
Mm-hmm.
thing we do. I've done
Mm-hmm.
that. Keeping busy, or
Yep.
having thoughts come in our head. We don't want to feel stuff, so we feel, all right, I'm just going to keep busy, then I'm not going to think about it. But
Mm-hmm.
you can't be busy 24/7, right? I mean, you're
Yes.
going to come back. It's always going to come back to you. You're always going to come back to yourself, what you're feeling inside. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that brings up a good point because I think I've complained to you before. You and I have discussed this fixation that America has on busy culture. And
oh
now that
yeah.
you mention it, I suspect that part of the reason why people embrace that so much is because if you're busy, then you don't have time to sit and be with your thoughts and your feelings. It's
Absolutely.
like, oh, this is great. Everybody appreciates that I'm busy. I look really important, like I'm contributing to society. And then at the same time, I don't really have to know myself. I don't have to deal with any of these unpleasant feelings because I'm too busy.
Yeah.
It,
That
it
was
gets
my very first YouTube video was, what was it? Stop the insanity of being busy.
yeah.
And it was exactly about that, how even, I brought up in that video how we can be at a restaurant now and I have my phone on, we all are on our phones. My friend goes up to use the bathroom, and I feel like I can't sit by myself. Just like, what do I do? Like twiddling my thumbs? Like, do I stare at people eating? So you whip out your phone, you start. I made the joke that, because I used to have like one of those little Nokia phones, like the flip phone. Didn't have internet or anything. It had the game Snake on it. You guys know what Snake is? And I used to like pretend that I was like texting people or pretend that I was like, I don't know, going through my contacts list. But I was really trying to keep myself busy, because it felt uncomfortable to not be doing something.
Right.
Why is that? Why do we have to feel uncomfortable sitting with ourselves?
Right.
And that goes back to, like you said, society.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
ignore
So,
or distract ourselves feels like keep it busy. Yeah. Yeah. Work smarter, not harder, right? We're all learning that.
mm-hmm.
I don't and I think it's a different generation, like my parents' generation stuff. It's like, well, you need to work a 40-hour work week. You need to, you know, working 80 hours a week. That means that you're going to get more done. Not necessarily,
Right.
because you're just going to burn yourself out. So work smarter, not harder.
Right. Yeah.
That's the
And
key to life.
it is. It
If you can
is.
manage that, then you're doing okay.
Yeah. And that goes back to an inner child thing for me too. It's like you and I clearly we've talked about in prior lives, Instagram lives, like our relationships with our parents and how they've always had certain expectations, the way you're supposed to be when you're an adult, and I I know that they've bought into the whole busy culture thing. Like I can get into conversations with my mom about taking vacation time, and she'll say to me, "Oh, are you sure you're not going to get in trouble for this? Don't jeopardize your job." I'm like, you really think that I live in like I work in an environment
I
where
could
people
totally
don't?
hear the voice now. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that can create stories in your head too. People can
Definitely.
have good intentions, they can come from a place of just caring about you and caring about you being able to make money and all that. But then I get a story in my head like, wow, maybe I am not worthy of this job. Maybe I'm lazy. Maybe I should have thought more about taking time off.
Mm.
And what is that doing? It's not helping me at all. Like it would be very easy for somebody at my job to tell me they'd rather I not use the time. It's a two-way street with the communication. I ask for the time and they let me know whether or not it's doable. From there, anything I'm telling myself is not helpful. It's ruining my time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
the
I mean,
whole, oh, go
it's
on.
a, it, no, I was just saying it's amazing how we've just, we live in a society now where it's like you have to feel bad about taking vacation time that
Hmm.
you're, oh, that's part of your package, right? It's
Yeah.
like people feel, and I used to feel this too when I worked in the corporate job. You feel bad for taking a week off. Why
Yeah.
should we feel bad for taking care of ourselves, for self-care? And it
Right.
goes back to that busy mindset or that working mindset. And it's like, okay, so I should just be working and working and working, but never balance that out with self-care. That's why there's a lot of unhappy, miserable people right now, because
Hmm.
they don't take any time for themselves, or they're always taking care of other people.
Yeah.
They don't see the importance in taking care of themselves
Hmm.
because it's the belief that's ingrained in our heads, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
That this
Hmm.
guilt that I can go and get a massage or something. I feel
Right.
guilty for doing that because
Right.
I should be using my time to take care of somebody else or
Right.
to put more work into my job. I'm letting somebody down by going getting a massage. It's really twisted when you think about it.
Yeah. And I don't know, do you ever feel like, because you had talked about how you were exercising such harsh discipline on yourself, like at the gym 5 days a week, 600 calories per day, right? And then you would, I guess I'm looking at it as kind of a release, right? Where you would ultimately binge because you were putting such restrictions on yourself. I kind of
Oh
see a
yeah.
relationship between that and the culture we live in, because I feel like we're we're told by people that there are supposed to be these certain restrictions. You're supposed to be fit. You're supposed to look a certain way. Like your body's supposed to have a certain appearance. You're supposed to
Definitely.
put in tons of work at your job. And then it turns into people living in excess. Like their self care looks like getting wasted on alcohol and binge drinking because it's
Hmm.
the whole, oh my God, I've had such a week.
Yeah.
I just need to
Yeah.
do something out of control to unwind because I'm under so much stress, so many
The
restrictions.
the deprivation creates excess,
Yes.
right? We
Right. Right.
deprive ourselves of self-care, self-love, nurturing, whatever it is,
Yeah.
food,
Right.
and that leads to excess. It's this
Yeah.
imbalance, the yin and the yang, right, of life.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're not balanced, things aren't balanced, then, you have too little or too much of something, then nature is going to balance itself out. World, your reality is going to balance itself out somehow. If
Yeah.
you suppress your emotions,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to get balanced out someday because you're going to end up exploding at somebody or releasing it in a very negative manner towards somebody.
Right.
So it really is, this culture of we're deprived, this culture of making us feel guilty
Yeah.
for wanting to be balanced. And that's what I love right now is that a lot of people are waking up to that. A lot of people are fed up with feeling stressed out, feeling tired all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to find that balance within themselves. So they're
Yeah.
doing things like more alternative medicine or self-care, looking more into spirituality practices. And
Mm-hmm.
it's so important. It's so important because the way I see it, you got one life to live. Why are you going to spend it being miserable all the time?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's like one
Right.
day we just wake up. Like this was for me. I just woke up one day and it was like, why? What's the point?
Sure.
So it's been for myself, it's been like years and years of kind of initially, I think now I'm getting to a point where I'm finally realizing or waking up to the fact that I don't need to get anywhere. I don't need to grab something outside of me to fulfill me.
Mm-hmm.
That my purpose is already here. I just have to listen to what my higher self is telling me. But for
Right.
many years, it was kind of like people go to find themselves or they go search for deeper meaning in their lives. And, some people it could be like a midlife crisis,
Mm-hmm.
spiritual awakening for a lot of people. But it can take years and years because it's just like we're undoing all this crap that we've been fed our whole lives or that we've been feeding ourselves our whole lives.
Sure. Yeah.
So to wake up is a beautiful thing to realize that there's more to this life than just like suffering
Right.
or what other people have told us or what our own egos have told us this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes back to perspective and perception and all that good stuff.
I totally agree. And
Yeah,
then, when I think people probably have epiphanies when they start that new way of treating themselves, because
yeah,
they probably also see in the process that they're not hurting anybody, they're only helping themselves.
yeah,
There's no company that's falling apart, there's no
right.
family member that's going uncared for. It doesn't have to be this working yourself deep into the ground for other people. That shouldn't be expected of someone. It's unrealistic, and people need to give themselves more space and time.
Totally agree. Yeah, absolutely. What do you guys think? Learn self-care is not selfish, it's self-love. Absolutely. Absolutely,
Yep.
100%. Once we realize that, it's a big shifter. It's a big shifter
Yep.
for ourselves.
Yep.
because yeah, we always think self-care is selfish. Why?
Right.
You got
Right.
to take care of your body, but I mean, it's not just your body, but you got to take care of your mind too. You got to find the balance between the two.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
To-
Roy said it's natural, try to avoid pain. Absolutely. We are
yep.
animals after all, so we're always trying to protect ourselves. We're always trying
Mm-hmm.
to avoid things that will inflict pain. And we're always trying to go towards things that bring us pleasure,
Right. Yep.
quite simply.
Yeah. But then, self love, I think part of that is coexisting with the pain, evaluating how much control that really has over you. Like, is it a monster that is dragging you around and you're
Right,
powerless over it, or is it something that you can reshape and reduce?
right. Or maybe it's not a monster after all, a
Yeah.
friendly monster, right?
Right. Totally.
So the only
Yep.
reason it's a monster is because you tell yourself it's a monster.
Exactly. Exactly.
So it's yeah, it's kind of like people who have pain tolerances too, because there's so many
Mhm.
people who have different pain tolerances. Some people can, their level 10 is like somebody's 2.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I mean that's kind of a good example, I think, of how our realities are so different just based on what we're thinking, what we're feeling, our perception of what we're feeling.
Hmm.
If we want to tell ourselves that the whole world is shutting right with COVID right now, we want to tell everybody that the world's going to shit and that everything's going to hell and the apocalypse is coming and we're all going to
Hmm.
die, then that's
Yeah.
going to be a reality. But
Right.
I don't want to live in that reality. I want to
Right.
surround myself with friendly people. I want to surround myself with the soul tribe. I want to surround myself with people who don't think like that. Because if you think like that, that's how it is for you,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah. And you're
Yeah.
missing out on all these meaningful experiences you could be having because there's that apocalypse in the background. And it's just a story.
Right.
But it is remarkable how, social media and the news outlets. I mean, I know a lot of these things are factual and that you should be concerned about them, but I mean, it's that whole thing about adapting to change, right? I
Hmm.
mean, but when I first heard that we were going to be on lockdown and the mask mandates, I understood this was for safety, but my first response emotionally was to panic. And I thought,
Mm.
okay, what is it exactly about this that's making me panic? And I think mostly it was the fact that it was something different. I'm like, okay, if this is a
Yeah.
new way that I
Scared
have
of
to live,
change.
it has to be terrible. Like
Yeah.
it's going to be a terrible experience. And then once some time passed and I gave myself the space to just exist in it, I'm like, okay, I mean, this didn't kill me. It's not too scary. It's just the
Yeah.
new reality.
Yeah. I mean, essentially, why are we scared of change?
Yeah.
Makes us uncomfortable, right? It makes us
Right.
uncomfortable. And why are we scared? Like when you panicked, why did you panic? I mean, ultimately, were you thinking down the line, okay, I might die? I mean, that's a legit fear, I guess.
It's funny because I wasn't even thinking so much about COVID itself. I was
Yeah.
thinking about there being new habits. And I'm like, what is it about behaving in a different way that's making me have a panic response? Just that whole fear of the unknown. Like if I'm used to something, it's reliable, I predict the way my day is going to go, and then suddenly it's going a very different way. It's like something clicks in your brain where it's like, all right, well, this isn't your routine. This has to be awful. It's
Yeah.
going to be nothing but despair and misery for you.
Right.
But that's not how it is. It's just different.
Yeah, we always think that change is a bad thing, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Why can't we shift that? Why can't we view it as a good thing?
Right.
So it's funny.
And that's a good comment. Is that from Roy?
Release
Release
the
the
illusion
illusion
of
of death,
death and you will
become
become
unstoppable.
unstoppable. Yes, my friend. Yes.
Yeah, there's always this.
And I
It's
think I
That's right. There's this
realize.
grim reaper that's coming from every
Right,
change, and
right.
it's like a biological thing. It's like if it's different, it's death.
Yeah.
But that's not reality.
Yeah. And just with everything going on right now, everything is so polarized too. So you're either on this side or you're on this side. Why can't you be in the middle? Is what I
Yeah.
always say. You know,
Hmm.
I'm in the middle. Like I see both sides okay.
Hmm.
But everybody is like, well, if you don't agree with this, this, and this, and that means that you are over here, right?
Hmm.
So we
Sure.
become a society that's just separated,
Hmm.
unbalanced, very unbalanced, and
Yeah.
I think that's part of our issue as well. So I was going to say something else, but it left me.
Oh, it comes back.
So it'll come back. Balance, just learning acceptance to ride the flow of ups and downs, pains and pleasures, accept everything without judgment. What do you think? What do you think, Tara?
Oh, sorry, I don't know where that comment is.
Oh, okay.
Oh, here we go. I found it.
Um,
Just
accepting things without judgment. So I think what he's basically saying is coming from a point of neutrality. Oh, that's what I was going to mention. Thank you. That everything that's going on, maybe I am losing it again. Ah, shit. I was going to say something about neutrality, and I don't know. It left me again.
of course, it's this interesting thought. It's like on the tip of your brain, right?
It must have been really good, I swear, guys.
Gonna drop some science on us. But
I'll try to like remember it, but yeah, just coming from a place of non-judgment. That is really important. That's key
yeah, yeah,
because it just is.
yeah.
You have to. Oh, this is what I was gonna say. That you know, by me not agreeing with that person or whatever is not saying that I think like this is not happening. Like I don't not think that COVID is happening or that it's a real
Mhm.
thing. But I don't have to get involved in these toxic conversations with people. So it's almost like social media. I don't know if this is going a little off topic, but it's like if you don't get involved in one of these people's conversations or their little reality thing they got going on, that you automatically are against them. So I
Yeah.
think this is why it's hard to remain neutral. This is why it's hard to be in a place of non-judgment because people are going to judge you for being in that place of neutrality. They're
Right.
going to say, "Oh, well, you're pretending that things are fine and nothing is happening." No, I'm
Hmm.
not pretending anything.
Hmm.
I realize that there is stuff happening around me, but I'm choosing not to be emotionally affected by it in a negative way.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean
Yeah. No, I
by that?
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I was going to say.
Okay. No, that's a really good point. It's
Yeah.
you can recognize that you may have to make some changes or think about something differently. Like we're in a pandemic. It's like you said, you're not pretending that doesn't exist. But everyone needs to determine what their comfort levels are in how they want to live in a pandemic or in any other situation. So, like, you can have something happen in the world if you're trying to find a nice balance, if you're trying to get to a more meaningful place in your life, you can make judgments on something that's happening and you can think, okay, what are my values in light of this thing that's happening? What do I want? What will make me fulfilled? What actions can I take to to live in a way that's meaningful to me, even though we're in a pandemic or whatever else is going on?
Mm-hmm.
So you can judge how you should act in response to something that happened, and
Yeah.
then you can also learn to coexist and accept the emotions you feel because of what's happened. So I think if you're doing that in tandem, you're getting to a place of balance, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
I mean, it's ultimately your decision what you choose to focus on.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
And acting should always, like, judgments should, I think judgment should lead to action, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what you want out of life, what you can do to get toward that place. And if you have any feelings that contradict what you want, then think about how you should be not letting that control you. Because if it contradicts what you want, then it's not helpful to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, don't let things control you. You can't let things control you.
Hmm.
It goes back to like anxiety, right? Are you going to let it control you or are you going to I mean, essentially you have control of your body. You have
Right.
control of your motor functions, right? Your
I,
brain has control of everything. This is you. Your
yeah,
brain is not separate from your body, right?
exactly.
So ultimately, you have the control. So you have the control what you want to focus on in life. You have the control of who you want to surround yourself with, and you have the control of how you react
Yeah, yeah. And I
to a
think
certain
that's where
degree. Yeah.
yeah, and that's where the acceptance comes in. Like I think acceptance is a huge part because if you're accepting something like anxiety, instead of doing what you talked about, Jen, like trying to fix it, trying to push it away,
Right.
if you get to a place of acceptance,
Just trying to
then that
get rid of the problem. Hmm.
yeah, then that releases its control. Because if you accept it, then it's no longer looked at as this big scary problem.
Right. That's kind of latched onto you. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Definitely. What do you guys all think? Do you have any questions, comments, anything else?
Any other thoughts?
Any other thoughts, Tara?
I think that was it for me.
Yeah, we covered a lot of bases with that. So it's it's really important because a lot of people struggle with this. And I know we we covered a whole range of, starting with the alcohol and the eating and substances, but going into social media and COVID and all that good stuff. But
Yeah, that's a sign of a good conversation when you can kind of
exactly, man.
fly around like that.
Anybody? We got some hearts.
I
We
like the
like
heart.
hearts.
We like the
See, you
support.
guys are cool.
Yeah.
I don't want to come on here and have people on IG Live being like, the world's going to hell.
You guys are sheep. You don't know what's coming.
You don't know what the F you're talking about. Or why are you watching?
Oh, this was awesome.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah.
All right. If nobody else has anything else, then that is it. I'll just have to figure out how to save this. And
Oh,
last
right.
time I screwed it up.
Oh, yeah. We gotta get this in the archives.
Yeah. I'll figure it out. It's all good. So,
All
all
right.
right. Thank you guys for
Yeah. Thank
joining.
you
Love
so
you.
much.
Appreciate you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Tara, as always. I will
Thank you.
see you soon.
Yes.
And all right, cool. So
Talk
everybody have a
soon.
great day,
Yes.
and we'll see you next time.
Bye.